Hi everybody, and what you got to do is just click the button, because that's what's going to give you the opportunity to hear what we're talking about. This is I'd like to welcome you. I'm Dr. John McPhee. Welcome to the what we're calling now. We have a new name called Healthy TV, Facebook Live's first live health show, where I'm going to share simple tips and strategies to help improve your health, maximize your health. Simple, easy things that you can implement at home. And really today on episode number 3, I'm going to continue to go through the 4 biggest mistakes that people make when they're attempting to change their health. On episode number 2, we actually got into the first 2 mistakes. I gave you a bonus. And on those on that episode, we talked about a couple of really key things that I witness and practice all the time. My colleagues and I talk about this really on a weekly basis. This is really a core problem that I think really holds people back. It's like a big barrier between the healthy lives, healthy bodies that people want, and achieving that. And the first barrier, one of the biggest mistakes, is that people are unable to, or are unwilling, or maybe they're just unaware that they need to do this step, is to come up with a vision for their health. And I like to think about this, let's go into a wholly different context. Imagine that you just won the lottery and you are you decide I want to build your dream home. And maybe you never thought about this before. So you've got all the money, there's no resources is not the problem. So you sit down and you start to, dream up this home that is just going to be the home of your dreams. I'm going to reuse the word. And so probably what you do is you'd start off by, listing out some of the big picture stuff that you want. And then as you got more detailed, you'd actually, you pick out more and more, nitpicky or detailed items. And along with that, perhaps you'd start to think of more functional stuff that you want to have around there too, which is part number 2, which is the purpose. So we'll get to that in a moment. But the point is that you would sit down and you'd sit down maybe with your partner, and you'd come up with this huge list of things, of items or benefits, or the structure of the home that you really want. And much the same, I would argue that this is an equally important exercise to go through when it comes to your health. And so what we recommended as far as the exercise to overcome this first barrier, this first mistake, is to sit down and actually start to think up what are all the things that you want when it comes to your health. And a good way to answer this question, or to maybe frame it in a question so you can answer it, is to think of things that represent 100% health to you. I like to, at the very least, be able to come up with 10 things that represent 100% health. Hopefully you can come up with way more than that. We talked about one of the challenges too that go along with that, which is, we often, if you start to write out things, and if you remember, I had my chicken scratch paper, and I said, write down what you want, and then we get into why. But when you start talking about the what, you may notice that a lot of them are framed in the negative. So it might be things like lose weight, or no more pain, or no more medication. That's fine, but what you want to do is actually flip that, and once you notice that, we identify it, then flip it into the positive. So no more pain would become waking up every day feeling awesome. Okay, or maybe it's related to losing weight, so that you really want to get into reframing that as you're seeking toward a healthy body composition. And the psychology behind that is simply you want to be seeking toward something, not running away. So it's not fear-driven, it's actually purpose-driven. Okay? So then mistake number 2 is, we see this often as well, is that people may have a clearer idea of what they want, but it's not driven by a big enough why. Okay, the purpose behind it is not strong enough. They haven't maybe considered all of the benefits that they would get from achieving that vision. And so the second exercise is to go through and actually identify why you want those things that you've written down as part of your vision. So as an example, if you wrote down, feel great every day, right? As far as we said, wake up with no pain, feeling great every day until the day I die, then maybe you'd you'd think about why that's important. So maybe it's so you want to be able to play with your grandkids, or perhaps it's you know that you'll be a better partner if you wake up every day feeling great. Okay, so the idea is to get as personal as possible. You want to think of the people and the first of all, like, what would that thing allow you to do? So what would the item, what would that allow you to do that maybe you can't do right now? How will it impact your life, and also how will it impact the people around you? Okay, so it's kind of they go hand in hand. So you have the development of the vision, and then along with that, the development of the purpose that goes behind those items in your list, your vision list, your health vision. Now, that brings us to mistake number 3, which really follows from that, because if we go back to that house analogy again, if you were to come up with this big dream home, and and then you just determine like what's the purpose behind the various aspects of that house, so that's functional. Then the next step would be to sit down with a designer, right, and you would actually create the blueprints. So really, there's no, it's great to have a vision, it's great to have a clearly defined purpose, but if you've got no plan in place, then you're setting yourself up to fail. You're just going to try tactics, most likely, and short-term tactics that may lead you to some short-term benefits, but it's not going to lead to lasting changes. Again, another story that this reminds me of, and I'm not really sure if this is myth or fact, but I think it really helps to explain this process. A number of years ago, so during the 2000 Olympics, the Sydney Olympics, there's apparently a couple in the Midwest somewhere, and they had a dream to go to the Olympics, and their dream was for 15, 20 years they had this dream to go at some point to the Summer Olympics. And so they had researched, they knew that the Olympics were in Sydney that year, they'd always wanted to go to Australia. So they started to, so they had a vision, right? They knew what they wanted to do. And the purpose was to, satisfy this lifelong dream or goal of theirs. And so they started to do their research. They, and think back like to 1999 or 98, the actual difficulty that, booking online, like how challenging booking flights online were. And so they arrived at the airport, they got on their plane, and they were doing their descent, and apparently, much earlier than what they were anticipating, flying into a city that, didn't really look like the pictures, got out of the plane and, arrived at this very small airport, which ended up being Sydney, Nova Scotia. So pretty big disappointment. If anyone listening to this has ever been into the Sydney, Nova Scotia airport, it's a quite a small place. I think maybe two gates, if that. So, those guys, they had a clear vision, they had a purpose behind it. They even had a plan, but it was actually not the correct plan. Right? They actually had invested all their time and energy into the development of a incorrect plan. And that brings me to the mistake number 3, which is we really need to start to create a plan that's based on fact, right? That's based on reality. And that plan, it really, it's something that you can actually start the process, but this is something that, that someone like myself can help you with as well when it comes to your health. So, when I think the best exercise to go through this is, if you're thinking about developing a blueprint, think about that blueprint of that dream home, it would be super specific, right? You would actually sit down and you'd want that, in that case, the architect to draw up exactly what needs to be done so the engineers can follow, and the proper action steps are taken. So what you can do actually as a first step is, now that you've developed, what your health vision is, and you've got the purpose that's driving it, then go back to that list of your vision. And I want you just to apply your own knowledge, right? Because we all, we've all accumulated some knowledge around health, and just think of some things that you could do to improve or to move yourself toward that goal, that end. Okay. So as an example, if it's waking up every day feeling energized and ready to take on the day, ready to take on the world, then perhaps the action step is going to be, logically I know I need to get good quality sleep. What I know about sleep is that I need to get 8 hours of sleep, and I like to get up at 6 a.m., so that means I need to go to bed by 10 p.m. Okay, so I can get my 8 hours of quality sleep. Okay, or if it's if your goal is to have healthy body composition, and as part of that, you know that there's a weight to lose, then you need to choose create a plan around that. So maybe it's modifying your diet, okay, or perhaps it's increasing your training, or if you're not exercising at all, then maybe it's adding in some exercise. So this is really what I want to do is empower you to actually start to develop a plan for yourself. Now this might be challenging. You may only be able to take this so far, and then you may need to sit down with a professional, and that's, reach out to me. I'm happy to pass you on, or refer you to the appropriate people. But the idea is to really take control, right? This is your responsibility. No one else is going to come to save you. Certainly when it comes to your health, you're the only one who's in control ultimately. And so developing your own plan is actually a great place to start. Okay, so if you missed last week, I recommend that you go back and watch that, because I did dive into the concepts around creating a health vision and a purpose behind that in more detail. And now it's all about creating the plan. And then next week we're actually going to go into the fourth mistake that I see people make all the time. Actually, this is probably the most common, and one that I've suffered with the most for sure. And so I definitely encourage you to check back in next Thursday at 7. Now, because this is episode number 3, I'm still getting my feet under me and getting used to doing this type of format. So I'd love your feedback. Give me a like if you've enjoyed the show. If you're watching in the replay, give me some feedback about the content, if it's appropriate, if it's like what you actually want to learn about. I do want to dive into some really specific pieces of content around health, easy stuff that you can just be doing around the house. We'll be getting into some simple tips around diet, nutrition, around exercise, around how self-care stuff that you can be doing at home. And then we'll also periodically come back to these more kind of bigger concepts around more I think like the mental emotional approach that's most successful when it comes to creating the health of your dreams. All right, so with that, I'll bring episode number 3 to a close, and I will see you guys all next week. Thanks for listening.